Have you ever heard the whispers of America's forgotten highways? The stories that cling to the cracked asphalt like ghosts? Well, we did. My friends, Emily, Mike, and I, three film students with way too much confidence, thought we could capture these legends on camera. Our target, the legendary Route 66. We weren't just looking for kicks. We were on a mission to film a documentary about America's darkest urban myths, and at the top of our list was the infamous Bloody Hitchhiker. They say she's the spirit of a young girl, lost in a tragic accident back in the 50s, forever wandering the mother road. We'd done our homework, digging through old newspaper clippings and dusty library archives. We knew all the stories, all the so-called haunted hotspots. But the warnings, we just laughed them off. To us, they were just part of the folklore, seasoning for our story. We packed up our van, loaded with cameras, mics, and a healthy dose of skepticism, and set off from our cozy college campus, ready to chase ghosts. The sun was high, the playlist was perfect, and the open road felt like freedom. We had no idea what we were really driving towards. The first sign that we were in over our heads came sooner than we expected. Our first night on the road, we checked into a cheap, run-down motel somewhere deep in Oklahoma. You know, the type the sin flickers. The paint is peeling, and it smells like 100 years of regret. We were exhausted from the drive, but excited to review our first day's footage. As Emily set up the laptop, we started to hear it. A faint, almost inaudible whispering on the audio playback. We cranked up the volume. It sounded like a child's voice, distorted and staticky, buried beneath the noise of the highway. We tried to rationalize it. Radio interference, a technical glitch, anything. But the feeling in the room had shifted. The air grew heavy, cold. That's when it happened. I was glancing out the grimy window when a shadow moved across the parking lot. It wasn't a car's shadow, and it wasn't a person. It was just a patch of pure darkness, moving with a purpose that made my blood run cold. It slipped past our door and vanished. My heart was pounding in my chest. I turned to tell Emily and Mike, but before I could get a word out, the old clock radio on the nightstand crackled to life. It wasn't playing a modern station. An old, melancholic song from the 50s filled the small room. A woman's voice crooning about lost love and a long, lonely road. Mike fumbled with a plug, yanking it from the wall. The music stopped, but the silence that followed was even more terrifying. Emily and Mike were spooked, but they hadn't seen what I had. They hadn't seen the shadow. I tried to convince myself it was just exhaustion, my mind playing tricks on me after a long day. But I couldn't shake the feeling. This wasn't just a film project anymore. We had stumbled into something real, something ancient and awake. The spirit of Route 66 knew we were here, and this was just its greeting. The journey had just begun, but I already had a terrible feeling about where this road would lead us. I just hoped our cameras would be able to capture what was coming next, and that we'd be around to see it. The desert sun beat down on our van as we ventured deeper into Arizona, the iconic Route 66 stretching out before us like a faded ribbon of history. Our destination was a place whispered about in hushed tones, a ghost town left to decay under the relentless sun. This wasn't just any abandoned settlement. Legend claimed it was the very spot where the infamous hitchhiker girl met her tragic end. The air grew heavy, thick with untold stories, as we pulled up to the skeletal remains of a burned-out diner. The sign, barely hanging on, creaked a mournful welcome in the hot wind. Stepping out of the van felt like walking into an oven. The heat was suffocating. But the moment Mike crossed the threshold of the diner, a strange, unnatural chill washed over him. He shivered, pulling his jacket tighter. It made no sense. The temperature outside was well over 100 degrees, yet inside this ruin, it felt like a freezer. He raised his flashlight, its beam cutting through the dusty gloom, illuminating charred tables and shattered glass that crunched under his boots. That's when he saw it. Or thought he saw it. In the reflection of a large, cracked mirror hanging precariously on the wall. A figure materialized behind him. A young girl, maybe 16 or 17, dressed in a simple white dress. Her long, black hair was soaking wet, clinging to her face and shoulders as if she'd just been pulled from a river. For a split second, Their eyes met in the broken glass. Hers were wide dark, pools of sorrow and desperation. Then, just as quickly as she appeared, she was gone. Mike spun around, his heart hammering against his ribs. "Did you guys see that?" he yelled, his voice echoing in the empty space. Liam and I exchanged a confused look. We hadn't seen a thing. "I swear," Mike insisted, his face pale. "There was a girl right behind me." We tried to rationalize it, a trick of the light, the heat, playing with his mind. But a seed of unease had been planted, and it was beginning to take root in the desolate silence of the ghost town. We decided to keep filming, trying to capture the oppressive atmosphere of the place. I focused my camera on the mirror where Mike had seen the apparition. As I reviewed the footage later, my blood ran cold. The playback was grainy, distorted, but through the static, a faint, ethereal whisper could be heard. It was a young girl's voice, speaking in English, her words a desperate, looping plea. "Help me. I can't leave this road, ... Help me. I can't leave this road." The voice was filled with such profound sadness, a chilling loneliness, that seemed to seep out of the screen and into the cramped space of our van. We listened to it again and again, the words echoing in our minds. This wasn't the aggressive, malevolent spirit we'd read about in the legends. This was something else entirely. This was a cry for help from a soul trapped in a repeating cycle of despair. The realization dawned on us with a terrifying clarity. The hitchhiker girl wasn't trying to harm travelers or scare them for sport. Her ghostly appearances, her desperate pleas, they weren't warnings. They were invitations. She was lonely, eternally bound to this desolate stretch of asphalt and dust. She didn't want us to leave. She wanted us to stay, to become her companions, trapped with her forever on the cursed pavement of Route 66. Suddenly, the vast, open desert felt like a cage. The endless road no longer represented freedom, but an inescapable prison. Every shadow seemed to lengthen. Every gust of wind sounded like her mournful whisper. We knew we had to get out of there, to put as much distance as possible between us and that haunted diner. But a chilling thought lingered. What if a part of her had already latched onto us? What if, by hearing her plea, we'd already accepted her invitation? We scrambled back into the van, our bravado completely shattered. Liam floored the gas, and the tires spun in the dirt, kicking up a cloud of dust that momentarily obscured the diner in the rearview mirror. As we sped our way, I couldn't resist one last look back, and for a heart-stopping moment, I thought I saw her, a faint, white figure standing in the doorway of the burned-out building, watching us go. Her wet hair blew in the wind, and I could almost feel her desperate gaze following us down the long, lonely road. We didn't stop driving until the sun came up. The experience in that ghost town changed everything. The legend of the Route 66 hitchhiker was no longer just a spooky story to us. It was a terrifying reality we had stumbled into. We had heard her voice, felt her chilling presence, and understood her horrifying intention. She wasn't just a ghost. She was a collector of souls, desperately trying to end her solitude by dragging others into her eternal purgatory. And we had come dangerously close to becoming the newest additions to her collection. We had escaped, but the memory and her whispered plea would haunt us for the rest of our journey, and maybe for the rest of our lives. Thanks so much for coming along with us on this terrifying part of our journey. It's your support that keeps us going, even when we're scared out of our minds. If you want to see what other horrors we uncover on the road, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. You won't want to miss what happens next. Stay safe out there. The engine coughed, sputtered, and died. Silence descended, thick and suffocating, broken only by the frantic thumping of our own hearts. We were stranded in the middle of nowhere on Highway 66, with a ghost town, a fading memory in the rearview mirror, but its presence clinging to us like a shroud. I glanced over at Jake. His head was lolled back against the seat, eyes closed. A thin, red scratch, angry and fresh, marred the side of his neck. Where did that come from? Before I could ask, a sound escaped his lips. It wasn't a word, not at first. It was a low, guttural chuckle that grew into a full-throated, cackling laugh. It was a sound of pure, unadulterated malice. And it wasn't Jake's. His eyes snapped open, but they weren't his. They were cold, ancient, and filled with a terrifying glee. Leaving so soon? Children. The voice that came from his mouth was thin and reedy, like dry leaves scraping across pavement. It was the voice of an old woman, laced with a venom that made the hairs on my arms stand up. Emily screamed, scrambling back against her door. "You can't leave," the voice rasped. A cruel smile twisting Jake's face into a grotesque mask. "I've waited so long for a new vessel. Old road. It gets so lonely, but one of you will help me leave. One of you will be my ticket out." It was the spirit from the diner, the one from the town. It wasn't just haunting the highway. It wanted to escape, and Jake was its chosen ride. "Jake, snap out of it," Mike yelled, shaking his shoulder. But the thing wearing our friend's skin just laughed harder. "Jake's not here right now," it cackled. Panic, cold and sharp, pierced through my fear. We had to get him out of the car. We had to do something. Mike fumbled with his seatbelt, trying to pull Jake out, but he was unnaturally strong, resisting with a force that wasn't human. That's when we saw it. Two blindingly bright lights cut through the darkness, pinning us in their glare. An 18-wheeler. It was idling just down the road, its massive grille looking like the teeth of some prehistoric beast, but there was no driver. The cabin was empty, a dark void. Then, the horn blared, a deafening, soul-shattering cry that echoed across the deserted landscape. The truck's engine roared to life, and it began to move, picking up speed with terrifying speed, its destination clear us. We were trapped. The doors wouldn't budge, the windows wouldn't roll down. Jake, or the thing that was Jake, just sat there, smiling that awful. No one smiled as the headlights grew larger, closer, consuming everything. "It's me, or the road," the old woman's voice whispered from his lips. "Choose." The truck was a juggernaut of twisted metal and phantom rage, bearing down on us. In that split second, with the horn screaming and the lights burning our eyes, the most horrifying choice imaginable presented itself. A choice no friend should ever have to make. Mike and I looked at each other, the unspoken terror passing between us. The truck was seconds away. Leave Jake, or die with him. Our survival instinct, that primal, selfish core of our being, took over. We kicked, we shoved, we clawed at our doors until, with a groan of protesting metal, Tay flew open. We tumbled out onto the rough asphalt, scrambling away from our own car, from our friend. We didn't look back. We couldn't. The sound of the impact was a cataclysmic shriek of tearing metal and shattering glass, a sound that would be forever burned into my memory. We just run. We ran into the suffocating darkness, the ghostly horn of the phantom truck chasing us, the sound of the old woman's laughter echoing in our ears. We left him. We left Jake on Highway 66, a sacrifice to the road, a new ghost to join the lonely chorus of the damned. We escaped, but we left a part of our souls back there, on that haunted stretch of asphalt. We never saw him again. Sometimes, late at night, when the road is quiet and the world is asleep, I think I can still hear it. The faint, distant blare of a truck horn, and the chilling, cackling laughter of an old woman, forever bound to the loneliest road in America. We survived, but we carried the weight of our choice, the ghost of our friend, with us on every road we travel. The story of Highway 66 isn't just a legend, it's a warning. Some places hold on to their pain, and they'll do anything to make you a part of it. Forever. Thank you so much for joining us on this terrifying journey through the American Horror Stories series. If you enjoyed this story, or if it sent a chill down your spine, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more tales from the dark side of the road. Don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss a new nightmare. Until next time, stay safe and be careful which roads you choose to travel.